Hey, everybody.
Welcome,
Wednesday,
welcome.
August 13th. This is Club MAHA Live. Kyle Kemper, Billy Zero, and tonight we have the amazing medicine woman, Dr. Jessyca Franco-Chavez. I'm excited for tonight. How are you feeling, Billy?
I'm good. Last time we really got into it with Dr. Jessyca Franco-Chavez was when we were on the Kennedy campaign. We were kind of mixing it up, trying to get the man into the White House, and now we've got him into probably a more special space. So tonight's guest is very special. She's a doctor, national health policy advocate, and legacy-rooted healer from New Mexico. You're veritable medicine woman. I got a little bit of Native American in me. Dr. Franco-Chavez has a profound commitment to integrative evidence-based and indigenous medicine. She believes in whole person healing and lifestyle medicine, from mitochondrial health and rehabbing and re-imaging home decor that is environmentally conscious, something we're doing at our house pretty much every week. Dr. Franco-Chavez is the founder of the Healing House Concepts, a lifestyle and health brand that merges naturopathic practice with conscious home styling. Her work centers on transforming both the body and the environment through non-toxic design, detox protocols, botanical medicine, and creating spaces that radiate joy and wellness. Dr. Franco-Chavez considers herself a wild, whimsical, modern country cowgirl with a Native American, with a New Mexican vibe. She is your medicine woman. All right, welcome, Dr. Jessyca Franco-Chavez.
Hello, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here and share the message of MAHA alignment with naturopathic physicians. So
very cool.
Ready to go?
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
Tell us a little about yourself, what you've been doing for the past year, since I probably talked to you about a year ago on the campaign, and we were working on getting Bobby into the White House, and you had told me your story about, it was like a lot of your past and what you've come through and where you are now, and some of it was good, some of it was like a little rough, and now you've got yourself into a really cool spot. So tell us a little about where you are and what you're currently working on.
Yes, absolutely. So like most stories, it doesn't make for a good ending or plot exchange unless there's some trials and tribulations. So I have this beautiful 5-acre healing center in northern New Mexico with my husband. And he's not a doctor by any means. He's more of a cowboy, entrepreneur, real estate guy. And he loves to work with his hands. And so it was kind of like this perfect storm of us in real estate meeting and being in business collaboration for the last 20 years. And we've owned 10 businesses together. We just sold 2 the last year and a half. The Healing House 1.0, like I like to call it, the Healing House in New Mexico, was the business we sold just around COVID. And so it was one of those bittersweet relinquishes, because it meant we poured our blood, sweat, and tears into this place. I mean, we were seeing people from all over the world. I saw a lot of Hollywood celebrities. We had retreat-based homes there, and everybody would come because we had a Morning Glory food medicine cafe before drinking acai bowls or smoothies was a thing. We had the gluten-free, we had the tallow and the ghee and all of the things to serve our community. And it was just a beautiful exchange of being able to live in this wellness-based setting and be able to supply our community with that type of lifestyle. And so, just rocky road edges with all the things that came out of COVID, and we were in the process of selling. But the beauty in it is that we sold it to a Tewa Women's United Indigenous group. And they were so enchanted with the space. They knew us for a long time, and we had worked together. And they ended up taking over all of it and then buying our home. And the director is there, and she's on site. And so the cool thing was that my husband loved to do doomsday prepping. And so we'd always joke about it. And we had this really cool underground bunker that he built. And it was like a 23-foot container. And then he built like this 10 by 10 room. And when the indigenous Tewa community saw that, they all just kind of dropped to their knees and they go, oh my gosh, this is where all of our heritage seeds and seedlings can be stored. Like this will be their forever home. And so that just brought, happiness, a big smile of happiness to our hearts because of all the things that we had created that we thought they were going to stand the test of time. Well, through our lifetime, especially, we were able to share that onward. So good silver lining there. But in the transition, I was transitioning from more northern New Mexico to Corrales, New Mexico, which is a village, and my family lives close by, and so we came to be closer to them. But we're in this beautiful 8,000 person village, and you can't go more than 30 miles an hour down the road because there's horses. So it's horses and cars all the way through. And it's just a beautiful, serene, and a different peace than we had. And so we're creating the Healing House 2.0. And so we bought a decent sized property here. And my husband's been rehabbing and creating, and I've been designing and doing all the decor. And so we just opened my office, and we're starting our 2 nonprofits, and we're getting it all rolling again. And so we're living the lifestyle medicine, I should say, and I'm truly grateful and honored. But in that transition, I just had this pulling on my heartstrings to support Bobby, and I started really grassroots in New Mexico, being the collector of signatures and figuring out how to do the data analytics and just the whole thing from nothing. And short and sweet, I ended up hiring on as the New Mexico Director of Operations. And then shortly after, got into the Southwest Regional Director of Operations and kind of like deputy director role, if you will, with Carlos. And so the rest is history. I stayed on that wagon with everybody and made some beautiful connections, and then transitioned into Team MAHA, or whatever that the transition team came out of that after merging with Team Trump. And so here we are.
Yeah, what an amazing journey that was. I think we all in this MAHA space kind of have a little bit of that kind of a negative aspect to our story. I don't think there's very many of us that have like just a solid, straightforward journey through COVID and to where we are. Most of the people that I spoke to on the campaign really had some rough spots there where they lost a lot of family, friends, and coworkers, and lost a lot of what they built their whole entire life around, and it became upended during COVID. The one good thing that I think did come out of that for many of us is that we got a new group and a new family and a new cohesive network, which for me seems to be a lot tighter than the old network. No offense to my old friends who wanted to force me to get a jab. But this new group seems to be much tighter. And I've had some spiritual journeys with medicine myself, with a shaman. And in those spaces, I started that before COVID and before I was in the MAHA movement. And those spaces remind me very much of the MAHA group. Very, very concerned about you. And when I got there, it's like, there's work to do. And I was like, what are you talking about work to do? We're in a room. We're just like, no, there's so much work to do. And now I know what the work is. And I think a lot of us kind of walk around like lemmings trying to figure out what the work is. But a lot of us look to people like you, Dr. Jessyca, because you seem to be able to find that path that is a great one that other people can look to and begin to follow. So I know you have a presentation that kind of gets into the heart of what you're doing and where you're going and where you think many of us are looking to go. So maybe we can jump into that.
Here we go. So I thought this was appropriate for today's talk, especially and geared it especially for this MAHA Club community. And I just want to kind of set the stage. What if medicine didn't just move forward, but it also looked back to our roots. And we remembered that, the sovereignty and this understanding of nature cure and natural practices, that we're working hand in hand, bridging health legislation with true boots on the ground care. We want it rooted in the science, of course, but we want it delivered with soul. My sole purpose is to be a shepherd to this medicine and make sure that it touches and reaches as many people as possible. And so that's why I'm here today. This natural path, I like to say, is really where the true health is manufactured. It's really cultivated in these beautiful communities. Understanding it, though, from the federal level and seeing what we can do to address this healthcare shortage is truly important. And if we really reimagine medicine itself, then we need to honor and foster the connections and our relationships that strengthen our community and bring it back home. And so being able to travel the nation and meet people and talk to others and then bring some of the practice back home truly is what it looks like from policy to practice. MAHA and the rise of naturopathic medicine, the future of our whole person, whole planet care. So my name is Dr. Jessyca Franco-Chavez. I am a naturopathic medical doctor, the chief medical owner and operator of the Healing House Concepts. And I'm super, super excited to be here today. So let's get started. So, doctor and medicine woman. Yes, I'm an alchemist in medicine and business. Like I said, my husband and I have been a team Chavez for a couple of decades already. And we just keep moving forward, going to do the nonprofit thing now in the next couple of months. And so super excited about that. I'm licensed in the state of New Mexico under the New Mexico Medical Board as a licensed naturopathic medical doctor. And of course, legacy root healer. I can't forget where I came from. My mother's side, all indigenous curanderas, healers, traditional healers. And then all my dad's side, complete conventional medicine, pharmacists, doctors, dentists, you name it. So I really found that naturopathic medicine bridged that gap for me. I got the rooted ancient medicine, really honoring tradition, but then I also got this beautiful understanding of science and evidence-based medicine and how to interpret the nomenclature and medical jargon. So that was really important to me. I've been a health policy advocate for some time, and I've done it with a deep commitment to my naturopathic lifestyle. And so really what led me into advocacy was being a part of the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians, their state and federal affairs committee, being a part of the New Mexico Association of Naturopathic Physician Executive Board, holding 3 positions there over the decade or so, was the past Southwest Regional Operations Manager and Consultant for Team Kennedy in 2024, like we mentioned, past MAHA Support Transition Team, and then now just kind of that general MAHA Health Freedom Consultant overall. Next slide. So what is naturopathic medicine? We're licensed in 26 states and several territories. We get over 220 clinical hours of nutrition and 90 hours of pharmacology. Now that is unmatched. And I don't say that to compare with other medical professionals, but there's nobody that has that robust of clinical nutrition and also that pairing of pharmacological approach, because a lot of times when people are on medications, you need to know the nuances of some of the things they can and can't have, nutrition or dietary wise, or even botanical medicine wise. So it's very important to have the two together. Year-round schooling at a 4-year accredited naturopathic medical school. We do concentrate into traditional biomedical science for those that are curious. In the first 2 years, we get 191 credit hours. The average medical school gets about 91 on average, just so that you can kind of see where we lie. We do a 2 to 4 year full years of clinical practice and patient care, and we do take 2 board exams that must be passed to be licensed as primary care practitioners. We're required to take 4,100 hours of didactic classes, and most of us get about 1,400 hours plus or minus of clinical rotations. usually more with our service and specialty matches and residencies in the community. We also are required to take botanical medicine, physical medicine, homeopathy, hydrotherapy, environmental medicine, counseling, mind-body medicine, in-office therapeutic surgical procedures, which is really good in rural communities when you get a cowboy that lacerates an arm or such. And then, of course, we can't forget wellness and prevention. So I really highlight some of these things, not to compete, but to collaborate, but to truly understand that we lead all of other practitioners in the ability to really be true experts of chronic disease. Okay, next slide. From policy to practice, let's just reimagine medicine, okay? I want this to be creative and fun. I don't want to focus on the anti-dyes and the anti-this and the anti-vaccine. I want to start focusing on the pro, on the happy, on the joyful. I want to make people realize that in medicine, it can be fun, it can be sexy, it can be creative. And that's what I want to bring to the table. So that's why I want to be a partner in health. This is to create relationships with that docere tone. Docere is Latin for doctor is teacher. And that's one of the main tenets of naturopathic medicine. We want to be partners in health because we want to teach our patients how to look at health, how to look at wellness, and to make sure that they have their own approach to medicine when it comes to discernment and care in the traditional medical setting. So advocacy efforts, state and federally, this allows us to really showcase and teach this MAHA alignment in naturopathic medicine and how we can benefit and how we can move forward. Supporting the detrimental healthcare shortage, of course, we'll go over statistics later. MAHA integration with our collective, of course, and the existing with and beyond conventional medicine and AI. This is a big today modern medicine topic. And then lastly, what the roadmap to community connectivity looks like with a naturopathic doctor in the driver's seat. Next slide. We might have a lag in our live stream. I'm on slide number 5. Can you guys hear and see me still?
I can. Let me see.
Perfect.
Maybe it's stuck.
Good old technology. No, I still see slide number 4.
I think the internet went down. He's getting hit by a storm.
Uh-oh. Good old tech for you.
Yeah, he's in Canada.
Oh, geez.
Well, he said the internet just went down.
Okay. So we can take a little intermission here.
Yeah. Oh, there he goes.
Oh,
right?
Perfect. Oh, look at you. Yes, thank you.
All right.
So why are we partners in health? And that's really why I created this Healing House 2.0 and the concepts that go along with it. Focusing on rehabbing health and the home. And I really want to make a powerful connection that your body is, of course, your temple. You only get one. But your home is your place of medicine. And it's really your first place of medicine. You sleep there. You take, coverage, and you eat and you nourish yourself, and you're there with your family, and you're growing your children. And it's just this beautiful place. It should be this beautiful place, this sanctuary. And so I want to get back to that, because I feel with just, seeing patients for the last decade, we've lost some of that. And so with my background in real estate, it just kind of made sense. I thought, well, why would I not pair health and home? And I don't think it really hit me how profound it would kind of manifest itself until I got really sick. I got mold exposure poisoning when I was helping rehab one of our homes. And I got really, really sick. And I just thought, I went to all kinds of different practitioners, and everybody wanted to give me at least a triple antibiotic or script. And I had this rosacea, and my body was just screaming out for help. And I just had to kind of put my big girl pants on and say, you know what? Doctor, heal thyself. Doctor, heal thyself. And I took myself home, and I made sure that I did everything I needed to in my environment. And I healed myself without any prescriptive drugs. And so I like to say, it's possible if you're conscious and you're blending detoxification principles, ancestral wisdom. Maybe sometimes you do need that modern evidence-based medicine to, even if you don't utilize it, just as your checks and balances, or just to give you options, or just to say, hey, this is where I'm starting, the most therapeutic, least invasive on an A to Z scale. And these are the options I have to work up if I'm not recovering or I'm not seeing improvement. And so I like to give my patients options. And so that really just struck a chord with me, is being a partner in health in every aspect of your life. So this is reimagining medicine to me. I believe art is life, and medicine is definitely an art form. I want to live out loud abundantly and healthy and make it fun, like I said. And so that is the power in this concept.
I have a question about the mold.
Yeah.
We had a massive mold exposure in 2004 in a condo we owned in DC. I went down to the floor. I saw something. I put my hand on the drywall. My finger went right through the drywall, and it was all goo on the inside. I had no clue what mold was like that really at that point. I touched my face. I went to work. I called someone to come take a look. They said, you need a mold inspector. I got a mold inspector to come out. That day at work, I got deathly sick from touching my face. I got a call from the mold person, and they said, you need to walk out of your house right now, before they even gave me the report. I walked out, and they said, you have the worst case of mold I've ever seen. We had Stachybotrys, Aspergillus, Sclerotia, all off the chart, like to the point where when we moved into the place, we got instant headaches that night. And then they stayed there over the next 2 weeks, but then we got used to it, and we lived in that place for 2 weeks, and we were told that we had hyper mold sensitivity. So after that, if I walk into a home, like even today, if I walk into a home and there's just like a little bit of moisture in the basement, I can immediately tell them. And I said, I'll go find it for you. And I've had that happen to me. So, and I know there's a number of people that I know currently that know that they've had mold exposure, that have been told this might be the thing that takes you out when you're 80 because it's in you. And it's, what is that, like antifungal natural stuff that you're using? Is it herbs? Is it a detox system? Is it a liver cleanse? Is it better breathable air? All of the above? Can you just give us a quick rundown? Because the mold is a big thing at this point, and I know quite a number of people that are experiencing this.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you and your family had to deal with that, because that is a most unfavorable experience and diagnosis. Not all molds are created equal. You can get foodborne molds all the way to the aerosolized airborne. And in your case, it was, from carpentry and obvious spores in the air and whatever the root source, right, is. Those are really, really hard to contain and to treat, just for the fact that most people have been living and continue to live in that environment. Now, to be able to clear that environment and get mold remediation and then be able to go somewhere else is the most favorable thing as far as first line step treatment, because you can't start, I don't care if it's pharmaceutical intervention or whatnot, you can't start treatment if you're still in that sick environment. And so for me, I always say, the first thing is finding the source and figuring out what your exposure origin is. And then we can start really supporting the body systems. And yes to all of your options there. Yes to all of the above. I'm very individualized to my approach with patients. And so I always say, pretend we're on I played softball. And so I'm like, pretend we're on a softball field, and all of these players are out there, and you have your home base and your first base, second base, third base. By the time most people seek out a naturopathic practitioner, they've gone to all the bases and they don't know what else to do. They're just like, well, I guess I'm going to go back home and figure this out for myself. And that's when I say, come, I am your home base. I will be your home base. I will help you decipher and disseminate and ask the questions and bring all of this evidence together and really mind map it out. And it's fun for me because I like drawing and I'm very creative. And so that's why I say, let it all loose, draw with your patients, put a map out, because all of those great health options you gave, is it mitochondrial detoxification, cellular detox, liver cleansing, there's a plethora of things we can do. But guess what? The order of it matters significantly. And I will have to say, I have certain products and companies that I use because they've stood by me and I've stood by them. And I can't rep something else that I've never had personal experience with. And I will never go into a non-3-tier vetted brand that doesn't have a clean, conscious COA, so certification of analysis. And so I have all of these checkoffs right in my brain that I like to do, but it really comes down to the individual. So it's like, okay, for one person, I might start at the liver. For somebody else, I might start at the gut. So there's different things that I would do. Long end to that question, I guess, but yeah.
Cool.
Perfect. So here we are. I think we need to go back one more slide. It was the healing house concepts. There we go. Thank you. And so I bring this up not to belabor the point that, yes, we rehab, and this is what it means to be in real estate and do your due diligence when you come into a home. But this true healer and healthcare professional on the front lines, this is where it starts at the grassroots for us at the Healing House Concepts, is really styling boldly, healing deeply, and detoxing the chaos. And so my husband and I are here in my office. It's a 200-year-old adobe building. The Teron actually is older than adobe. And so the Teron wall was melting off. And so we had to reinforce all the sides. And here you can see the before and after. But the point to be made with the before and after is that, we want to focus on the joy. What does the lighting look in your kitchen? How does it make you feel when you eat? What are the color palettes that you use when you sit down at the table? All of those are these beautiful intrinsic signals to our brain to do something or not do something, or eat more or not eat more. And so I really like to say, let's focus on the indigenous naturopathic inspired design to bring that joyous, depression-free environment in, and be conscious of how you style your home and how you cleanse your home too, and maybe what non-toxic low VOC paints we're using. Maybe there's some other options for you, especially if you're sensitive, allergy sensitive, or even to our point of the mold case, how are you rehabbing that space, or how are you remodeling that space? And do you have a true expert to help make sure that you're doing it correctly? And that's where we come in. Okay, next slide. So this was one of our rental units. You can see the before and after. I say detox the chaos. That's all I got to say to this. People need help, and we're here to help. But this shows this perfectly, kicking toxic living to the curb, quite literally, laughing loud, style boldly, reclaim what it means to thrive. And so it really is poignant. For my ask of you this evening, examine your own health and in your home, and join the mission that I'm proposing to detox the chaos in your life. All righty, on to segueing from grassroots hometown medicine, or rehab, I should say, to state level advocacy. And I want to share with you one of my favorite stories of my life. And I call it my spark story. And the reason I say spark is because what ignites you, what in your life that makes you kind of have that aha moment. And so for me, it was in undergrad. I was in biochem class. My professor was a scientist for the CIA, and he wore the pagers at the time. And he said, if I get called out, they're picking me up in a chopper outside and I'm out. And so I was first chair. So that meant I had to take care of the teachings for the rest of the day. And I was still learning, but nonetheless, him and I were good academic friends, and I was grateful to have him. And he came in one day and he had a dissertation probably about 3 inches thick, and he threw it across his desk and he slams his hand down and he goes, "I've been vindicated." And we all just pause, and he starts scribbling all of these molecular structures on the whiteboard or chalkboard at the time. And of course I recognized sugar, glucose molecule, easy. But all these other molecular structures never seen before in my life. And I thought, okay, he has a story. To round it out, he has researched, probably one of the first people back in the day to research artificial sugars and the detrimental effects that it would have on the body. So of course I go home, and that week I'm like chucking everything out of my parents' refrigerator and all my family members, and diet this, sugar-free that, going out, done. We're not having any of that anymore. And my mentor comes to me not shortly after, and she's like, have you ever explored naturopathic medicine? Because I had already done 70,000 miles across the US going to medical school interviews. And she goes, "You really, you're lit up about this." I was bringing her all kinds of stuff, and she goes, "Research naturopathic medicine." And I did. And the next day I went to my biochem professor and I said, "I know you wrote me the best reference letter I've ever had, but would you mind redoing it for naturopathic medical school?" And he takes off his glasses and he looks at me, and he paused and he goes, "You're better than that." And I didn't quite know how to react. I was obviously taken back and didn't really know how to explain myself to him at the time. He wrote me again a beautiful recommendation letter, a reference letter. And I look back on it now, and the point of my story here and the advocacy part is that he is my muse for teaching others about naturopathic medicine. And how wild was it, and curious, I should say, that this beautiful scientific mind who was ridiculing artificial foods, but didn't make the connection of what it really meant to be a true healer of naturopathic medicine. And so that's why I do the advocacy work I do today, is because if a brilliant mind like that had that disconnect, I want to make sure the people that I work with understand who we are and why I do what I do. And so here I am. So pictured here is the governor of New Mexico, Governor Lujan Grisham, in 2019, after we passed our scope of practice bill for naturopathic medicine under the New Mexico Medical Board. And I say that proudly because it was a testament, and it was time consuming, and it was all of those things. And we learned and we did so many awesome stuff. And so, leading licensure campaigns, talking to people, building coalitions with tribal, rural, and BIPOC community health leaders, testifying before state legislatures, committees, and experts, and going up against people that are just not on your team, not on your side. educating state medical boards and public health agencies on what true chronic disease prevention looks like in this climate of resilient care that we need to get back to. And then collaborating with Medicaid and state insurance boards, we got naturopathic inclusion in the state of New Mexico. We are one of only 5 states in the entire nation that has that reimbursable care model. And so I really want to template that for other states to follow suit. So next is federal advocacy. What does it look like? Yeah, it looks like a trip to Washington, D.C. for me, speaking with legislators and MAHA caucus members this last April. And so what did we do? We championed license parity for naturopathic doctors through different levels of collaboration. We lobbied for Medicaid inclusion. Again, like I said, New Mexico is a templated state for that. We contribute to integrative health policy reform via testimonies, white papers, federal comment periods. We engage congressional leaders to include us as naturopathic practitioners in federal workforce strategies and preventative care initiatives. And then we also advocate for research funding. Think about it, in this day and age, botanical, environment, lifestyle medicine, all through the NIH and other federal agencies, so needed to have experts in those fields, especially botanical medicine and some of the dietary supplements that are now coming into some true kind of I don't know what I want to say. They're just being highlighted as things that may be taken off the market or taken off the shelves. And then the last thing to highlight that I think is really important is we're championing some licensure efforts for Americans to utilize HSA and FSA accounts for health and dietary supplements. And this is super important because the IRS currently doesn't recognize health and wellness as use for pre-tax spending. And so it's kind of like a head scratch moment. You know about MAHA, right? You know what we're trying to achieve, the goals, the pillars, the mission, the movement, but IRS doesn't recognize health and wellness. So here again, we need people to focus on those things and really help just educate and change the narrative. And so that's what we're doing here. And I guess my question to the community here is, so who's leading the team on this? Who is the pro in all these whole health initiatives? Who's in that driver's seat?
No one. So health and wellness, like you're talking about here, doesn't apply to a flexible spending account.
No.
Yeah, I do. You know, one of the things I've said is that, again, why I was so interested in having you on is that I feel that, you know, there isn't a clear leadership community. You know, like big nonprofits have boards and they invite all of these great people into their boards, and all of those people do amazing things on the companies they work for, and the nonprofits, and then collectively those groups get with other groups and they forge alliances and they, you know, create plans and get things done. And I feel that MAHA is very similar to a startup, and it just hasn't, you know, it's kind of a year in. It was a year with Bobby, a little bit more but it was really a solid year of running hard, and then the transition. And then it was the year of MAHA, which I think the year is like basically next week. I think it's a year since the handshake. And so it's really kind of like a startup in year 2. And a lot of startups in year 1 and 2 really make a lot of mistakes. They spend too much money. They do a lot of things that are wrong. They bark up the wrong tree. They buy the wrong software. They buy too many computers. They don't have enough people in this division. They hire too many salespeople. And then in year 3, they figure it out. So I do feel like this next year really needs to be the figure it out year as we get into 2026, the midterm. Otherwise, we're going to around and find out that 27 and 28 comes really fast and hard, and we can lose a lot of this work. And I know a lot more of us are thinking like that, and we're looking to people like you to be a leader and kind of pull us together in a way that I don't think that we all have a cohesive network and understanding like it needs to be done. So I think there's a lot of us that are out there that are trying to figure that out. and try to understand who the leaders are.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it perfectly. I think that timeline's spot on. I always say, I lost my mom pretty young, and I always reflect on the lessons of life, right? And I always say it's always figure outable until you're no longer here. And so it's figure outable. Let's put some chicken scratch to it. Let's draw it out. Most of us are very visual, and you don't know what you're missing in the puzzle pieces unless you see it. And so that's kind of the way that I learn and the way that I teach people. But there are roadmaps, and hopefully we can continue to help, bridge the experts, bridge the people, because, oh man, the undertaking, and it's insanity. I'm so proud of Secretary Kennedy for what he has achieved so far. And there, backlash on all sides, every side. But man, when you have that engine running and you have an expert taking a little piece of that, job or work or whatever needs to be done, it's doable. It's so doable. Agreed. So yeah, going back to advocacy, right, is I think it starts here with starting to figure out who needs to be in certain positions, just networking and talking to everybody from states, community side, state side, and federally. And I didn't mean to go to advocacy efforts federally. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I'm not a true expert. Maybe I'm a little bit more seasoned now, but I'm the shepherd of the medicine. And I'm like, I'm not here for any other reason than my heart speaks to my people and my community. And I can't sit here consciously. I'm frustrated, to be honest. I can't sit here consciously at my desk for 8 to 10 hours a day or whatever I was doing and see one person an hour, because that's my commitment to my patients, is to see them for a full hour, especially in the beginning, and do the medicine justice. Yes, am I making a difference in their life? And I'm grateful for that. But my mind and my energy and speaking to, you having time to meditate and center and all of that. It's like there's something else at play that I'm excited to be part of. And so this is necessary. It's just the way that it's happening, and it's necessary. And so taking time and effort and all of the things that it takes to do advocacy, it's a lot. But again, there's the musing, this what's your spark story, and you just kind of have to keep playing on that. And so for me, we want conscious, competent practitioners driving this new model. That's obvious. But we need to be able to teach each other what real healthcare looks like. So I don't care if I'm sitting down the street at a hole-in-the-wall Mexican food restaurant. I'm talking about medicine. I'm talking about MAHA. And so here, these numbers don't lie. Let's go to the chart first. And I say, people are really smart. They can sense and understand trends, and these trends turn into action. And that's what we're seeing right now, is this grassroots movement all the way to federal advocacy. So the statistics show from HHS Mission and grassroots advocacy, we're looking at autism and chronic disease that I highlighted specifically because that's what the movement is focusing on. So 90% of the nation's 4.5 trillion are focused and spent on chronic disease conditions. Give me a break. That's from 2025. Autism, 1 in 31 children nationally are affected with autism. 1 in every 12.5 children in California. The historical significance on that is in the 1950s, they did a retrospective study using today's criteria, and the prevalence suggested for autism cases was 2 to 4 out of 10,000 children. Now get this, the diagnostic criteria was not available until the 1980s in the DSM-3 book for diagnostics for mental health. And so is that perplexing or curious? I would think. Again, chronic disease from this year, 30% of children aged 5 to 17 in the US are affected. Over 42% of adults are obese, 500,000 deaths per year from diet-related issues. That's unacceptable. The historical significance of chronic disease growth is showing from like a 10-year period, a 25% rise in chronic disease of the non-elderly. I have to highlight that. And chronic disease, of course, continues, 129 million now in 2025. And so signal group polling suggested 74% of Americans want the right to choose their medicine. And 70 to 80% of constituents, Americans, are concerned about our food, government reform, transparency in research, and access to full clinical trials. So what the heck are we doing? Well, 40 to 60% of Native American patients throughout the US seek alternative healers. 75% of US adults use dietary supplementation, and 36.7% of US adults are at least use one complementary approach for health. So again, the state of affairs currently segregating what is and what is not medicine. This is not MAHA. So why this case in point is why naturopathic medicine needs to be covered, period. And the next slide, my 2025 DC presentation. So I presented in DC because we are the doctors of MAHA. We've been the MAHA doctors before it even was a thing. So we need to make our voices louder and bigger to be included and to have a seat at this table. So I became an expert really in efforts to really break down the Make America Healthy Again Commission Executive Order 14212, signed by President Trump on February 13th of 2025. And it really shows an alignment between naturopathic, integrative, functional medicine. And this evaluation really gave me the understanding for what really is this MAHA movement? What are the commission's priorities? What is Secretary Kennedy really doing at HHS? How is this restructuring really looking like from a American, maybe practitioner or patient perspective? What is the health freedom movement? Where did it start? How did it start? And how does it either compare, contrast, or complement MAHA? And then what is MAHA naturopathic legislative efforts? Are they one and the same? Are they speaking the same language? Do they have alignments of nomenclature? Don't know, but we do now, and absolutely yes, they do. And then MAHA Caucus and how to address them and their nomenclature and their ideals and goals for healthcare in the US. So this next slide was actually on my DC presentation slide. And it was for practitioners, advocates, lawyers, lobbyists, and it really showed a comparison of the MAHA executive orders line by line versus naturopathic medicine and our alignment. And the alignment really fell into 5 categories of root cause of disease and reversing chronic disease. Obviously, high priority, number 1. Emphasis on prevention and lifestyle medicine, expanding access to providers, fiscal responsibility, and the cost savings, which is really important when you're talking to members of Congress, and then other policy recommendations. And it's a big slide, and I had a lot of stuff encompassed in it, but we are grounded in identifying and treating the root cause. That's one of our main tenets of naturopathic medicine. And so I felt that that was a standout because we are the experts of chronic disease and getting to the root cause. And then the naturopathic model, we advocate for prescription drugs only when absolutely necessary. And we favor all of the other beautiful lifestyle approaches to health or therapeutics that we can have, like nutrition, stress management, non-invasive treatments, botanical medicine, and the list in our medical toolbox goes on. And then NDs need to be present and presented as a solution to the looming primary healthcare shortage as insured primary care providers. This was one of our asks, is that, hey, we don't have coverage and credentialing for Medicare and Medicaid. we need to make sure that if we're really true being MAHA, that us practitioners, when more than half of the country wants us to be their practitioner or wants at least options for us to be their practitioner, this should be covered. And so the curious thing here too is that the data is showing that by 2033, we will have a deficit in the United States of 55,400 primary care practitioner loss in the United States. So why would you not want people like me that have put their life, heart, and soul into this type of medicine being at the forefront of this cause and of this movement? And then naturopathic medicine showed reduced medical costs in multiple studies. So from health technology assessments, they did an evidence-based summary over about 30 years, and it encompassed about 2,000 peer-reviewed scientific articles. And what they found is that 81.1% effectiveness of naturopathic doctor clinical practice in positive responses to primary or secondary outcome measures. Huge, 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 huge. And then by appointing licensed NDs to initiatives, federal, statewide, what have you, we get to the collective mission with the more soldiers, more benefit. And these are what Americans are demanding. The US data shows 60% of adults are on a prescriptive drug, and we are one of the sickest countries in the world. 76.4% of US adults have at least one chronic disease. And I like to speak to New Mexico. 30% of New Mexicans have diabetes. And then we lost, from 2017 to 2021, we lost 30% of our primary care providers. So the need is there. So supporting the healthcare shortage, what's decentralized medicine? This refers to moving our healthcare away from centralized institutions, hospitals, clinics, urban clinics, and redistributing it into community, into home, the healing house concept, or digital spaces. And we can't get away from the digital spaces or AI. It's coming whether we like it or not. But we can absolutely empower the individual and local providers to co-create their own health journey, to be that partner in health. And the key facts here are, we want care anywhere. If we can have care in the hospital, we should have care in the home. We want data sovereignty. If AI and tech are going to be involved, we want to make sure we can create another tech function to control our own health and control our data. And then peer-to-peer local practitioners, greater inclusion of traditional healers, naturopathic doctors, health coaches, and midwives complete this ecosystem. We want emphasis on prevention and autonomy, again, the partner and health aspect. We want to equip our patients with the tools, knowledge, and support to get and maintain wellness, just not just to react to the disease model that we kind of fall into. And so why it really matters, this decentralized medicine really reclaims health from our institutions. We need to put it back in the hands of our people. We need it guided by community, by our wisdom, through lived experience and our ancestral practices. So you see my little healing house truck just kind of trucking along here. Next slide. So what does the naturopathic doctor and MAHA integration map look like? We need to get back to creativity. I keep saying that, but I'm going to keep singing that song. It recognizes the entire health, human, and home ecosystem. When we get creative, I am passionate about medicine. I am passionate about my patients and my people and what we do. And so if we can bring this excitement and this joy and this light to this conversation, which I feel it's been lacking maybe a century or two or so, we need to get back to what it really looks like to be you and to be healthy. But we need a map to get there. And this is where creativity comes into. We want a health and medical education advocacy system. We need it to go into this training framework where we have MAHA accredited or certified doctors that have kind of like a little certification stamp so others can get educated by this top tier provider, other practitioners. We need naturopathic medical training that lines up with prevention and chronic disease care. Where's the lifestyle medicine protocols? I have them. Who else has them? Let's share them. Let's get efficient and effective. We are not. Expert doctors in clinical nutrition. That's us. We need to be the ones leading our food care system. Naturopathic-led clinical nutrition programs is where it's at. And I'll tell you why. We do have the 220 clinical hours under our belts. And I'm so happy that Texas has made the stake in the sand for their medical school or their medical schools to be the first in the nation to integrate nutrition into the curriculum. But by the time that next allopathic class has graduated in 4 years, where are we if we don't get naturopathic experts in the seat right now? That's my question. Again, decentralized local care, that was in the last slide. NDs are actually the best trained in rural healthcare settings to work with our Indigenous people because most Indigenous people want a traditional healer or non-practitioner. And then, of course, supporting our constituents' asks. They want the health freedom and the access. It's in the polling. It's in the numbers. So MAHA medicine needs a competent driver. New medicine, and I'm just going to say new medicine because it encompasses a lot. We need a driver. Who's the driver? And I'm just here because it's my life and it's my presentation, but I'm sure there's plenty across the nation. Naturopathic physicians have the keys and the roadmap, delivering MAHA's top 3 pillars, in my opinion, the most important. Prevention, food system health, and community-rooted access. We don't need to get complicated. The KISS method works fine here. Keep it simple. So let's put NDs behind the wheel. And so now you have an ND in the driver's seat. The truck's not driving itself anymore. And yes, that's me. I do own a turquoise Chevy truck. And I'm here for the campaign parade for our 4th of July parade last year.
That's cool.
So, existing beyond conventional medicine and AI. It's time. It's time, right? From grassroots medicine in the MESA to healthcare reform and advocacy in DC, driving into the future for our fellow generations is where we need to be. First time in history, we have a soldier at HHS in Secretary Kennedy. He's been fighting for us for 40 years. Come on if we don't take advantage of this in a good way. 2030 statistics show that AI will be 1 million times more powerful than it is today. And medicine is one of the careers or offerings, I'll just say, to be impacted the most. So as great as AI integration is, these wearables and all of the things that everybody, is fast-tracked to get on, it does, to me, raise some ethical and sovereignty concerns. And so over-reliance on AI risks depersonalizes the care and widens disparities if algorithms are trained on biased data. Are we seeing that? That's very concerning to me. Regeneration of our Indigenous, holistic, and non-Western knowledge systems. We must be protected from being extracted, decontextualized, or commodified by AI. We're the humans. We're the ones that can do that. We need to put a stake in the ground and claim who we are and what we represent. This is where community connectivity, sovereignty of health, and health rights lead, going back to natural medicine, nature cure, natural law, if we want to preserve our health and our environment. Because if we are operating as if we will, as we are today, we will continue to see 40% of our land become truly degraded, and there's no coming back from that. We want to be able to be sovereign in our land and grow food and show food as medicine. Food is medicine. MAHA caucus members, that was one of their big old things. Food is medicine. I would love to get on a one-on-one conversation with somebody about what true food as medicine is. They talk about it, they say the word, what is it? And that goes into, what we need to do to reverse the trend and not be the chemical sprays and focusing on regeneration. Sorry, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox, but that really is a thing for me.
Well, I consider doctors to be artificial intelligence. They're like, and I use the story of me getting a physical in 2018, and the nurse was probably 50 years old. Doctor walks in, he's 35 years old, and he said, "Well, it's you got your physical, and it's a great time to get your flu shot. It's 100% safe." And I looked at him and I said, "100% safe?" I said, "You can't say that." He goes, "Absolutely, it's 100% safe." I looked at the nurse. I said, he cannot say that. I have to have informed consent. He cannot tell me this medicine is 100% safe. She grabbed his hand and walked him out of there. And in COVID, I actually used that story to work with a whole bunch of people here in Maryland to try to convince the governor's medical board to not force mandates on people, because people have allergic reactions and have their own history and present in different ways. And I fought really hard to get in front of that board. They kept canceling their meeting, and eventually I think the onslaught of calls from people like us stopped Maryland from being a mandate state, and it didn't get as bad as it did from other states. But and the other aspect to AI, so I consider doctors to be some sort of artificial intelligence now. They've just been primed with these books that have been filled with data that is incorrect, or quite frankly, no data. And it's just give them a pill. Here's the pill for this. If you have this, and they don't actually know the biometrics behind the human that's taking the pill and what actually happens. And with people like Bill Gates, they're looking to have a kind of a second-class breakaway civilization where they get to just train the AI to tell the doctor what to do. They don't even need a book. They don't even need to have someone in college for 8, 12 years. They just need to have someone to sit there and go, "Oh, you are supposed to take this pill right now." And it makes it a lot easier for them. So I consider this to be one step further away from where we need to be going. And it's another reason why I think we need a kind of a breakaway civilization within MAHA and our own AI systems that are trained specifically. Like, I would rather have you train an AI with everything you know and all of your key people and influencers and mentors from your last 20 years, and have that group of knowledge fund something and a creative database that is an engine that I can parse. I'd rather not parse Bill Gates's database, quite frankly. Oh,
you're speaking my language. Yeah. And applause to you for taking it all the way to Maryland like that. That's a, effort there, I'll say. Yeah. And we don't know who's behind the curtain. We don't know who's behind the lens. One of my best friends was so excited to tell me that they had gotten, consult online within a few minutes of having a scratchy throat, and they were picking up their prescription within 20 minutes from that phone call. And I've sat on my soapbox before, and sometimes, you just have to kind of smile and nod, because, again, people should have options. Patients should have choices, but we really do need to protect the information and the wisdom and the subclinical acknowledgments that we've seen being in practice for so long, and not give up our practitioner Hippocratic rights and oath, and honor the medicine in a way where, if I see somebody come into my clinic or into my office, I can't consciously just write them a script. Now, if it's an obstacle to cure and they have some other adverse reaction or something going on, quite possibly that could be first line just to calm the system. But that's very, very far and few between. we have other things that we can utilize first, for sure. So this MAHA connectivity concept, with AI and technology, like we were talking about, we need that sovereignty and the community connectivity piece. We don't want to focus on this polarization, isolation, or the government to regenerate our health systems, or people like Bill Gates. So it comes back to what I call, or I created, inspired by Dr. Zach Bush, the MAHA connectivity concept. And it's really designing health by natural law. And health sovereignty really starts with the whole human. This is self-healing system. Your body has the innate capacity to heal when given the right conditions. And we really want real agency exercised within this ecosystem to have this as a possibility. Connectivity is what makes systems resilient. Diversity and reciprocity, from the soil microbes to the communities of humans and people. When you create health, you think of joy and happiness and talking with one another and sharing stories. And you think, oh, what she said or what he said, oh, yeah, why would I not do that? Or at least it gives you that curious bug for you to continue researching. We don't get that in isolation of being behind the computer screen, a doctor seeing you for a 10-minute consultation online. And so cultivating community is super important at the community level. Designing by natural law, aligning policy with our living patterns. What is our food, our water, our soil, our stories, our community? What is it teaching us? Secretary Kennedy has done a great job at this. He seems to be in the same matrix as I when it comes to seeing things from a living pattern system. We need to measure coherence and belonging, not just compliance. And so there's a few things that we may be able to discuss to be able to bring that into a measurable structure. So in MAHA terms, what does this look like? We need inclusion for naturopathic practitioners in all levels of insurance for true healing to take place so everybody can afford it to some level. It can be expensive. HSA, FSA support, like I said, on prevention and supplementation, and then strategically place-based clinics. This is important. What it looks like in your community, and each community is different. And beyond the isms, we're building this stewardness, economies of care. That's what we want. I started to go into the MAHA movement, and I was like, oh, DC and this, and now we have somebody there. And I was going to DC all the time, and I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? The template, the structure, the confidence in the medicine is here, right out my door, right in my dirt. So, step backs sometimes are provings in themselves.
This is true.
And lastly, imagine this, a clinic that feels like a sanctuary, sunlight through the windows, patients are being seen and heard and held, not just charted. Doctors are asking about your dreams and your digestion. You're part of the ecosystem, not just a diagnosis. Food is prescribed before pharmaceuticals. We're getting back to movement, breath, botanicals, touch. This is considered medicine. We're listening deeply to your story. Labs are reviewed alongside lifestyle, trauma, ancestral patterns, home concerns, along with including evidence-informed medicine. Naturopathic doctors, elders, midwives, herbalists, and scientists, all at the same table, being creative, thinking through things, thinking outside the box. Give me a break. This is where we thrive. That's where naturopathic doctors thrive. They don't fit into a box. They didn't want to get into the allopathic box. That's why we're here. And then healing is not rushed. It's ritualized. So this is my naturopathic vision. not a rebellion against conventional care, but a renaissance of what medicine can truly be when it is rooted in nature, guided by science, and delivered with soul. Thank you all for your time. Last slide I'll give to you. We are the givers of light and healers of energy. My brother's photo with my quote. You can connect with me, or I can put my information in the chat to be shared. I'd really appreciate you sending your state representatives any information on naturopathic aligned healthcare within the MAHA movement to attest to how much we are needed and where we need to go from here. And so I'm going to copy and paste all of this into the chat, and hopefully this can be shared with you at a later time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Dr. Jessyca. Amazing. I think my battery's getting ready to die. My charger just went up, so I might cut out. But that was amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here and taking the time to have me on your platform. And I'm excited for, just continued collective conversation. And again, I'm a creative, so I can't just sit here and chart notes and dictation all day. I have to utilize my body and my hands and my brain.
Yeah, no doubt. That's
so
what you're doing is quite amazing.
Just how fun was doing the 4th of July parade in your truck?
Well, besides the 105-degree weather, because I don't have air conditioning because it's a 1967, it was quite fun. I enjoyed it immensely, and I was so proud to be representing Kennedy. And we had 4 different vehicles with us, and we were one of the biggest floats in the whole entire parade.
Amazing. Yeah, we did the same thing in Chatham, Massachusetts, in Cape Cod, 2 years in a row. The first year, 2023, I took my bus because I had a RV that was the Kennedy Across America RV that drove all over, and I took it. I never made it to New Mexico, never made it east of or west of Oklahoma. But it was so amazing to participate in all those, and that creative energy is something we desperately need more of. How many naturopathic doctors or NDs are there in America?
Good question. So from the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians, they have a rough estimate, of course, because some people, just do their own thing, but they're thinking there's at least 8,000 that are registered with the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians. And there would be more, to be honest, but we're really struggling with this whole licensure and what scope of practice looks like after your 4-year medical school, because medical school costs us on average $250,000 to $350,000 on average, $250,000 to $350,000. I hope I said that correctly. And so it's very comparable to the cost associated with traditional allopathic school. So when you go into it, you kind of have to have an understanding of what it looks like afterward. And unless you are an entrepreneur, business person, have some acumen behind you, it's challenging because you are left out of a lot of that hospitalist ecosystem, clinic bit, whatever it is. You have to start your own practice. Maybe you go with a group. And so that's why it's been so profound for me to be fighting on the state and national lines and doing consulting work state by state to get other naturopathic doctors who are very enthralled with the policy and procedure process to be able to give them a roadmap, also templated to how they get their state licensed with a full, robust scope of practice to be able to call themselves primary care practitioners. And so that's where we're kind of seeing where if we got, for instance, we've sent all kinds of info to Secretary Kennedy and all of that stuff. But if we had somebody at HHS before this whole, 4 years is over, and we could start some real conversations about getting naturopathic providers in these systems, then it it would blow up. I mean, even with this whole MAHA movement, working with the Vital Choice Project, TVCP, Garrett was on, he's been a part of MAHA for a while. He is associated with Callie Means. Him and his co-founder both had true chronic diseases in their youth. And they're only 22 years old, but they started this nonprofit. And they are going around, and I've met with them. We're kind of strategizing and structuring what it looks like to template curriculum so that other pre-med students can kind of have this type of medicine as an option, and we can get small grant funding for it so that these possible practitioners can have some support within the system. And we're truly elevating and we're truly proclaiming integrative, functional, complementary, alternative naturopathic care within the model system, and they're doing a really good job. So with all of this advocacy effort, I think this next decade is going to speak volumes for us. And I know more people that are on the pre-med track would absolutely consider going this way if we had a little bit of a clearer and conscious structure to it all after school.
Yeah, and I wonder as well, like I feel like in the last 5 years, like specifically, a lot of existing doctors may have had their eyes open a little bit more to the nature of the system. And so I wonder as well, like, there's probably a very large pool of good healers of actual, well, not actual, but of, traditional doctors who might, I would imagine it's probably easier for an existing licensed, like, primary care provider to add ND to their is that a path? Are you seeing doctors or like your traditional doctors moving into the naturopathic doctor realm?
Yeah, I have. They would still have to complete our curriculum because it's an accredited 4-year school. We have all of the governing bodies for the national licensing examinations and all of that has to have a checkoff. So I have seen allopathic students come into the naturopathic program. I've seen some, not a lot, but 1 or 2 that I know, naturopathic doctors go into the allopathic world just because they thought, hey, I'm not going to be able to get into surgery the way I want to, and all is fine, but the options are out there. So I think I would like to have more conscious discussion over what it looks like to provide medical doctors with some of the medical tools that naturopathic doctors already have, because that's what separates us, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, or the pro and conning of it. We went into this medicine to be able to have those specialties, to be able to be experts in botanical medicine, pairing that with pharmaceuticals. I can write a script. I can, do what I need to do. But conscious medicine is that going to be contraindicated with this certain herb or this certain constituent in this botanical medicine? So I hold the medicine dear to my heart. Not that I'm gatekeeping or want to not share, but I think we need to have that discussion. If they're starting to implement nutrition to this point in medical school programs, that only goes so far. Like, how do we structure so that we all, like chiropractors, they do their own physical medicine. Can we do some of it? Absolutely. But I would never call myself a chiropractor. And so it's, I think the titling, the credentials are really important to just clarify and disseminate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I see a lot of hope, and I also see, more of a rise, because it feels like at least in my experience, a lot of, my friends and colleagues who chose the allopathic doctor route, very expensive, and it's, you really get tied into, that life. It's a major commitment, and then you're also, you have to toe the line. If you start breaking away from, the doctrine, your license is in jeopardy, and then all of a sudden, your debts are going to get called, and you're going to be destroyed. And looking back at what it was, and I also just have a feeling that I don't think all doctors are healers. Like, I don't think they really are like, really care. I mean, I feel like they do care, like there's a part of it, but they're not necessarily healers. And like real healers, feel called to do it. And I also feel with all the licensure of everything, a lot of the magical healers out there probably like, aren't.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say. I've dealt with some of the on the alternative side, we'll say, that went into healing arts, which that's kind of what it's called in the political stratosphere. The healing arts section of healers, practitioners, curanderas, even certified naturopaths, which is different than a naturopathic doctor. So like certified naturopaths can get certification online, and they, have some tools in their toolbox to be able to counsel a client, not recommend to a patient. That's the difference. And so we have worked with these groups of people very intently over the years, because when it comes down to scope of practice, they would like to see softer scope of practice bills, so that they have an inclusion in the bill, so that if they don't want to be held to the legal ramifications for X, Y, and Z in that state, then they have the ability to continue operating under their certification as a healing art. And so I've met with a lot of people that, even though we're vying for licensure so that we can have a seat at the table as a primary care practitioner, there are indeed some other professions that would like to stay out of that whole construct of the framework, legality, policy stuff. And so I don't know if that's kind of, what you were talking to, but that's what we've been dealing with.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And like, how do you feel like Bobby is handling all this? Because I mean, I feel like it's got to be pretty, he went from interfacing, like, in campaign mode, interfacing with so many different people, and like, so much input and so much into like, a govy job now with, with gatekeepers kind of around him. And I don't want to say gatekeepers, but with, with filters around him. It's, with a huge mandate, with, a budget that's bigger than the Pentagon, they say. But yet, like, a lot of the stuff that we campaigned on, we haven't seen, too much action on, specifically, I'll say the COVID jabs. Like, I think is one thing that a lot of us were like, come on, like, that brought out so many people, all the way, to many different things. But I think what Billy was saying too is like, we need to, and I saw a tweet by Lauren Lee earlier, like, guys, we gotta have Bobby's back. Like, he needs to have our back, because if we need to have his back, because if nobody's got his back, he's just gonna get, he's strong, but he's ultimately gonna get, rolled by the machine. And he's working in, like, you were saying, would go to DC oftentimes. And why am I going to DC? You got to get in the swamp, and you got to mix it up there to participate and play the game. Like, if you want to play the Game of Thrones, you got to be in DC.
No, that was one of the impressive things, Dr. Jessyca, that you told me, is that, the going to DC thing, because a lot of what Danielle and I have been working at Council on Domestic Relations is the simple fact, kind of what you have both said here. Bobby's great. He's the leader of the movement, but once he crossed the government line, it became time for us all to grow our states' rights beacons, raise the flag, and go, all right, there's a guy in Washington. He's saying the words, but those words are meaningless unless there's an army in every state full of people that are willing to get up, go to the Capitol, talk to legislators, and fight. And that is ultimately where I think we're failing. That is the piece. There's so very few of the Kyles and the Jessicas out there. The human, separate yourself from the doctor for a second, but then just there's the human that is Jessyca and the human that is Kyle. That person, those humans that are willing to mix it up and go do the thing, get on the road. You two are people that are willing to just put your whole, just everything is in, all in, 100%, not 92. I said on the campaign, 92% doesn't work when you have 100 people. 92% ain't gonna cut it.
No.
And also, bro, I mean, I'm not 100% anymore. Like, if Bobby were to announce he'd be running in the next time around, I'm not convinced. And I think politics is like gossip and money and backstabbing and so much bullshit. Like, do I really want to commit my life prana towards that? Or especially as a creative, when you don't get, as a creative, when you're trying to disrupt, you can't fix a system by fighting it. You want to change something, build a new model that makes existing one obsolete. And that is where I feel as a creative, as an entrepreneur, as a creator, as a network and a community and a social innovator, the system ain't gonna fix itself, friends. It's time.
What I'll say one thing to that, and that is, I do believe there's some dark forces at work here. The darkest I think we've ever seen in humanity. I think those dark forces are right here, right now, and they aren't even in the back rooms anymore. They're sitting right next to us in the meetings. They're infiltrating every aspect. And what they want is for Kyle to say those words and do those things you just said, that you're not convinced. And I agree with you. I'm not necessarily convinced that we go fight in the way that we did before, because that level of army manipulation might not be what we need now. But again, you go back to the state level. If we can all fight within the 150 miles around us or 150 feet, 15 miles, and get those people, all of the energy I think we spent reaching out. And Jessyca, you said it multiple times. You're just reaching out. You're trying to do all this stuff, and you forget that your neighbor's hurting. You can just walk next door and help your neighbor and help convince the people here, and not spend all that energy getting somewhere, and the $5,000 ticket and the big dinner and the tie and the thing and the meeting and the shaking and the doing, and now look at me in the picture and the look, I'm here and I did this, and who cares? You got kids dying. What are we doing? Right.
Yeah, it was definitely an awakening for me. I think I have a healthy perspective on evaluating most things. I think that's what kind of got me into the bubble of what I do anyway. But I do think Bobby has done a phenomenal job with the constructs surrounding him and what he's been given into, that we may only see a percentage of, and you guys may probably more than I at this point, but I can feel things and I can understand things intuitively. And there's so many things that have just led me to that perspective of come home to your community, really template, really talk to people, get this siphon of energy going. And I just had a meeting with a past senator and a very, very influential nonprofit founder last Thursday. And we have hopefully some really, really cool collaborative projects in the works here for New Mexico. But it does take the energy, effort, and, you're doing it because you care. You're not doing it because you're, getting a big paycheck. We're doing it to Make this time count. And that's what it's all about, is making the time count and going where you feel you can serve the best and the greatest, and lending your heart and your voice and leading with your heart, because I think we're in the era of that. And to your point, Kyle, of doctors go into the profession to help people. That doesn't necessarily translate in this day and age, and no disrespect to any practitioner. It's a painstaking way, through medical school, whatever form or facet you go through. But the true healer is in the heart, not in the head. And so we need to manifest that more, and we need to speak our truths, and, again, making things, keeping it simple, creating the roadmaps, creating these discussions is what we're all about. And I'm so, so grateful to know you both, for you to, lend your ear and your eye to what I have to say. And hopefully our missions and our collective continue to stay aligned, so that we can really make things count the next few years. Because I do believe in Bobby, and I know that he can't do everything, and everything takes time, right? Time is the enemy to a lot of things, and he has things and constructs that we can't even see. But I'm grateful to him, because he doesn't have to be doing this for us.
Indeed. And at the end of the day, too, it's like government, I don't think, is the solution to it. It really is. It's, it's pushing it down. It's the community level. And it's also, it's not, I think if we saw a lot of this within, especially within the electoral campaigning, like, you're oftentimes like highlighting the negatives or the problems versus, the solutions, or inspiring energy towards the innovation, towards the creation. So I remember one of my favorite quotes was like, criticize by creating. Like, criticizing by whining and being negative and being a bitch is not going to help anything. It's just like,
that.
You just criticize by creating. Like, do something. Like, if there's a gap, like, try and do something, and fill it, and inspire that action. And I just feel like now, too, with the technology and the tools, that if we can start radically collaborating a little bit better and sharing our resources and action cards, like, for example, like the database that Bobby and that you were a part of helping create and like collect that, but yet we don't have access towards that became like a commodified, asset, like, in order to help build and foment the community and also leverage it. Like, good. Every time we took a donation, we got the employer and their occupation. So with just the occupation, you get a lot of insight into who people are, and what their general frame will be. Plus, they're donating, so they're not just necessarily volunteers. And I feel like it was like Billy said, it was startup year one. We're doing this. We're putting this now, like, reflecting, where can we put the energy? Like, that's still like, we need to mobilize this, this greater MAHA movement. Because what I really like about MAHA is, like, you broke it down to 3 points, but you can't really break it down to 3. It's many. It's a whole panopticon of systems that are kind of tied together. And it's honestly, it's a little bit of a vibe shift, too. And but we need to, like, coalesce the groups behind it, because it seems like, and people need some kind of leadership too. And I think a lot of, I don't know, Billy, I think you'll agree, and that's why you've taken like direct action, setting up the Council on Domestic Relations, like, facilitating organizations and meetings, and keeping this going. We have other groups too. It's just, how can we best kind of at least put the invitation out to collaborate, and also listen to people, because like I know with my role, like, you know, by being like a field activator, whatever I was with the campaign, actually driving around, meeting the state leads, volunteers, doing parades, doing the pop-ups, like supporting the events, trying to just like, you know, bring that positive energy. Because, you know, at the end of the day, if you have the good party, and it's like, you know, people are having a good time, people are healthy and happy and working and vibing together, like a lot is going to get created. And one of the other lessons out of politics is like, politics is a talent show. It's you're like the team that attracts the best talent is going to win. So like, you know, how do we and honestly, like this last election, the Kennedy campaign had the most talent and the most heart of all three. If we just talk about the three, like there's a lot, and like, you know, a lot of the Republicans were so grateful, you know, when all that all came to pass, and you know, so we have action cards, we have momentum, and all the other thing is Bobby too. Like, you know, a year ago when that handshake happened, or coming up on it, like, you know, the entire conservative base, a lot of them probably hadn't listened to Bobby, like, you know, speak at length. And, you know, while some may say Bobby's voice is a little shaky, others will say his voice is incredibly powerful. And like, you know, when you actually listen to his words, you know, they're truly incredible and inspiring. And, you know, he opened up a lot of people to think a little bit deeper than the tropes that President Trump will speak in at times, the radical simplification of complex systems, and also like, you know, the polarizing elements by which, you know, the divide to conquer political apparatus operates. It's time for us to take steps.
Good points. Yeah. I think Kennedy's long form was much appreciated at that time. I know I appreciated that. I like whole world knowledge and context, and he absolutely has given that to us, you know, even in social media postings, and being able to just feel like you're a little closer to the man. So yeah, I think for me, getting a little bit more clarified on the constructs and who's leading what's happening, because I get it, to Billy's point earlier, you know, that it's this 1 to 2 years where you're building this business, you're building the framework, things are going to fall to the side, things are going to, you know, level up. But what does it look like now, and who's who and what's what and who's doing certain things? And it's just still a little bit not solidified for me in my mind. So I think once that happens too, and imagine I've been kind of part of the crew, other people, right? Americans that have maybe really appreciated, maybe not being an independent, but appreciated what Bobby was saying. Now it's like we're seeing the divide between the groups again. And I am concerned for this next election, but I think that MAHA does need to, speaking of sovereignty, needs to really tailor itself to be sustainable over and above these next 4 years. And, you know, it's hard to get away from the MAHA slogan right now, but if we really create our functionality in our system, in our group, that's what's going to stand the test of time.
That's true. Before NPR took money from Monsanto and I stopped listening to them, and they got a little woke. One of the last interviews I listened to was a lady basically saying, you have extremists on both sides, and these extremists can sway large swaths of people because so many people are just quiet and listen up and then think that that's the way to go. I just think MAHA needs to realize that we are looking at extremists now that seem to have been kind of positioned to fight each other. And we are all sitting here, and I think there's probably 7 to 15 million. Some would say 8, 10, some will say 20. I think there's really a hardcore 15 to 20 million of us in the MAHA movement that are ready to make our moves. And that is really the 5%, 6% of the country that can be vocal. The problem that I see is that we all have to be vocal. So we need more of this and less of the infighting, and more of the ability to convince the left and the right that they're fighting the wrong people. It's not your neighbor. It's the people that want to track your money and track your health and put a pill in your body and take away your right to have some raw milk.
Yeah, we also have a resource challenge too, because like a lot of the people within the, within this 5 to 7 or 15, 20 million MAHA people are not have not been the beneficiaries of the pig trough of money that's fueled at very large amounts, those farm dollars, those war dollars, those those following those the corporatocracy support system is for those who play with it, get along or get by pretty well, versus a lot of us we're grinding to continue to build and have our own passions. And so it's just about recognizing it doesn't have to be one or the other. It's some people are in a place where they can dedicate a lot of time, and we saw that again with back to the campaign, we had so many volunteers that were like, just tell me what to do, I am ready, and the other ones are like, I had no time to do anything. So it's how do you identify and support towards catalyzing that action? And also when it comes to the political action and the advocacy, sometimes it just takes a couple dozen letters to potentially move it, or some careful creative strategy. In this day and age, a good video can be seen tens of millions of times, which will reach literally all of the politicians, as opposed to paying a lobbying firm $100,000 to go do whatever the heck it is they do.
I love that.
Get it. Time to get it. Time to turn them all on.
Oh man.
All right, Dr. Jessyca Franco-Chavez, thank you so much for being with us, and such an amazing presentation and an amazing history of who you are, what you're doing. It's a real inspiration to many of us. I'm relatively new into the MAHA movement and into politics. I started volunteering. So meeting people like you that have been dedicated so long and that are really doing the work and making the difference in people's lives daily means more to more of us than you probably realize, because most of us are trying to figure out how to do that, and we don't really know how to do that on that intimate level. So speaking with people like you,
Jessyca, have you considered a public office route, or any have you thought about it? Because you're doing the DC thing, you're shaking hands, you're kissing some babies.
Yeah. So I hear, yes, there's been several people that have put that bug in my head. That's not my goal at this moment. However, yeah. However, politics, I guess to your point, I didn't realize true politics until I started on this journey and started to see it for my own eyes and for what it really was. It was very disenchanting. Very, I'm an optimist sometimes, a realist most of the time, but I like to lead with sunny side up. And I really tried to look at it that way and be a part of that with politics, and I would have to get into like a really, really conscious spot with some good people to be able to consider that.
Yeah. I can be a life suck out of what you're doing, and it could counterbalance all the positivity that you have. I sense that what I see in politics can just remove a lot of the healthy energy that you surround yourself with on a daily basis and the good that you're doing. And it can suck all that out in 8 seconds. So 10 hours of amazing work could just be like, okay, that's all gone. And you're just like, that's the biggest negative I see for politics for so many people. That's
great. Yeah. Great illustration. I got it completely. I think, I just kind of see myself, and that's why we're doing these nonprofits, is because I see myself being this sovereign entity, being able to really dig in the dirt and do some cool shit.
Do some cool shit. All right. We'll keep doing cool shit. That's always good.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Yeah. Keep in touch. If you need me, I'm here.
Very cool.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Dr. Jessyca, for showing up and sharing and all of your amazing work. Let's go. Let's grow. Keep on. One breath at a time.
Bye.
Yes. Okay. And we'll end with the Hannah commercial. No, we won't. We're just done.